Before we begin, if you want to see more real-life horror, mysterious, and spine-chilling stories like this, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so that every new video comes straight to your phone. Now, let's dive into today's terrifying story.
I never believed in the hauntings around Lake Lanier until the summer of 2022, when I found myself standing on the splintered wooden dock behind my cousin's lake house in Gainesville, Georgia, listening to something move beneath the still black surface of the water long after midnight, something that breathed. People say the lake is cursed, that the government flooded entire towns back in the 1950s, drowning homes, churches, graveyards, and leaving restless spirits sealed under hundreds of feet of dark water. I used to laugh when old locals talked about the drowned town of Oscarville or the missing swimmers the news reported almost every year. But all of that changed the night I met the woman they call the Drowning Woman, a pale figure who rises from the depths calling for help, only to drag the living under. I didn't want to go to Georgia that summer. My cousin Daniel insisted, saying he needed company after breaking up with his girlfriend. I figured a week by the lake might clear my head. But the moment I stepped out of the car, something felt wrong. The air was thick, heavy, strangely cold for June. The water looked too dark, almost oily, like it was hiding something underneath. On my second night there, things began. Daniel and I were sitting in the living room playing cards when we heard it, a woman's voice screaming for help across the water. Not just a faint sound carried by the wind, but a desperate, choking scream as if someone were drowning right that second. Daniel froze, eyes wide. "Not again," he whispered. Before I could ask what he meant, we heard the voice again, closer, sharper, echoing through the walls of the house. "Help me, please, someone help me, I'm drowning." I ran outside, but the shoreline was empty. The lake was still. No splashes, no ripples, nothing. It looked dead. That made it worse. Daniel grabbed my arm. "If you hear screaming at night, you don't go near the water. Ever." I asked him if someone drowned recently. He didn't answer. His face said yes. When we returned inside, I tried to sleep, but at 3:17 a.m. I woke to the sound of slow, dragging footsteps on the dock, wet footsteps, one after another, like someone was pacing. I forced myself to look through the window. I saw no one on the dock. But the sound continued. And then I smelled something, lake water. Rotting lake water. Like mud mixed with old algae and something dead. The doorknob rattled. Once. Twice. Then something scraped across the wood like fingers dragging along it. I stepped back from the window. I didn't breathe. The sound stopped only when Daniel suddenly yelled from his room, "Leave us alone." The footsteps ran, yes, ran, back down the dock and vanished into the water with a splash. Not a normal splash. A heavy one. Like someone falling in from a height. The next morning Daniel refused to talk about it. He just kept staring at the lake, pale and sleepless. Around noon a boat patrol from the county sheriff passed by and Daniel quietly told me another body had been pulled from the water earlier that morning near the cove. A teenage girl went missing 2 nights before. "They always find them here," he said. "Same place. Same depth." That night everything escalated. We were eating dinner when all the lights flickered, then went out completely. The air turned freezing, the kind of cold that hurts your bones. Then we heard the water. Not the usual soft movement of waves, but something rising, getting closer, like a huge splash followed by heavy dripping footsteps walking up the land toward the house. We backed away from the windows. The footsteps were slow, dragging, soaked. Something scraped against the outside of the door. Then a voice whispered through the cracks, soft, breathless, almost pleading, "Please, help me, I can't breathe." The voice wasn't human anymore. It was soaked, gargling, full of water. I felt something cold drip onto my ankle. I looked down, tiny puddles of lake water were forming at the door threshold. Daniel grabbed my arm. Said yes. When we returned inside, I tried to sleep, but at 3:17 a.m. I woke to the sound of slow, dragging footsteps on the dock, wet footsteps, one after another, like someone was pacing. I forced myself to look through the window. I saw no one on the dock. But the sound continued. And then I smelled something, lake water. Rotting lake water. Like mud mixed with old algae and something dead. The doorknob rattled. Once. Twice. Then something scraped across the wood like fingers dragging along it. I stepped back from the window. I didn't breathe. The sound stopped only when Daniel suddenly yelled from his room, "Leave us alone." The footsteps ran, yes, ran, back down the dock and vanished into the water with a splash. Not a normal splash. A heavy one. Like someone falling in from a height. The next morning Daniel refused to talk about it. He just kept staring at the lake, pale and sleepless. Around noon a boat patrol from the county sheriff passed by and Daniel quietly told me another body had been pulled from the water earlier that morning near the cove. A teenage girl went missing 2 nights before. They always find them here, he said. Same place. Same depth. That night everything escalated. We were eating dinner when all the lights flickered, then went out completely. The air turned freezing, the kind of cold that hurts your bones. Then we heard the water. Not the usual soft movement of waves, but something rising, getting closer, like a huge splash followed by heavy dripping footsteps walking up the land toward the house. We backed away from the windows. The footsteps were slow, dragging, soaked. Something scraped against the outside of the door. Then a voice whispered through the cracks, soft, breathless, almost pleading, "Please, help me, I can't breathe." The voice wasn't human anymore. It was soaked, gargling, full of water. I felt something cold drip onto my ankle. I looked down, tiny puddles of lake water were forming at the door threshold. Daniel grabbed my arm. I didn't want to step outside the next morning, but the smell forced me to. It was everywhere, thick, rotten lake water drifting through every room of the house. When I opened the front door, the entire porch was soaked as if someone had dumped a massive bucket of water over it. But there hadn't been any rain. The sky was clear, bright, and painfully quiet, the kind of morning that feels hollow after something terrible has happened. Daniel came out behind me, pale, stiff, as if bracing for something he knew would happen again. On the far end of the dock, I saw footprints, wet, bare, small, leading from the water to the house. They stopped right at the door. And there was something else. Nails. Long, broken fingernails stuck between the wooden planks of the dock. As if someone clawed their way up from underneath. Daniel didn't look surprised. He only said, "She marked you." I tried to laugh it off, but he wasn't joking. Lake Lanier doesn't let people go once it chooses them. Someone hears her. She follows them. She shows herself to them. And then, he didn't finish. But I understood. I should have left that morning. I should have packed my things and driven as far from that lake as I could. But something wouldn't let me. A pressure in my chest. A whisper in the back of my mind. A strange curiosity that didn't feel like my own. I heard her voice again around noon. Faint at first, drifting across the water. "Come closer." I felt my feet stepping forward without thinking. Daniel grabbed me. "Don't look at the water when she calls you. Don't answer her. Don't think about her." Easy for him to say. Every time I blinked, I saw her face, those black, empty eyes and that awful, drowning smile. I asked Daniel how he knew so much. He didn't answer right away. He just stared at the lake like it held a memory he didn't want to remember. Finally he said, "Because she came for me first." That night, Daniel drank until he could barely stand. I didn't understand why until he finally Admitted the truth, a year before I arrived, his best friend Mark drowned in the exact same cove we were staying near. Except drowned wasn't accurate. According to witnesses, Mark had gone swimming with friends. He surfaced once, screaming that something was pulling him under. Then he vanished. They found his body 3 days later, eyes open, skin pale, mouth filled with mud and lake water. He told me before it happened, Daniel whispered. He heard her calling him at night. Same voice. Same words. But I didn't believe him. I felt sick. Because I heard her too. And she said my name. The second night at exactly 3:17 a.m., the house started shaking again. Not like an earthquake, this was rhythmic, pulsing, like something heavy was slamming against the stilts beneath the floor. My bedroom grew cold enough for my breath to fog. Then I heard it, dripping. From the ceiling. From the walls. From the corners of the room. Cold droplets falling onto my shoulders, my face, my hands. I sat up, heart pounding, and the room fell silent. Until suddenly the mattress dipped, slowly, like someone was sitting down next to me. I froze. Something ice-cold pressed against my back. A whisper slid across my ear, "You saw me." I tried to run, but invisible hands pinned my shoulders. Water began rising around me, yes, rising, filling the bed, creeping up my legs, soaking the sheets. I gasped for air, but the pressure kept crushing my lungs. The voice shifted from soft to furious, gurgling with water. "Come with me." I choked, kicking helplessly, but the water kept rising, up my chest, my throat, my mouth. I felt freezing liquid pouring into my lungs. I was drowning. In my own bed. Daniel kicked down the door. The water vanished instantly. I was left gasping on a dry mattress. Dry. Completely dry. He dragged me out of the room. "She's stronger now," he whispered. "She's choosing faster." My vision blurred. My ears rang with a low rumble like waves crashing under the floor. "We have to leave," I said. "Right now." Daniel grabbed his keys. We ran outside. But when we reached his truck, every window was cracked from the inside, shattered lines like someone beat the glass with bare fists. The engine wouldn't start. The lights flickered, then died. Something had sabotaged it. And then we heard it. Splash. A massive one. Something heavy surfaced near the dock. Daniel grabbed my arm. "Don't look." But I already had. She was standing waist-deep in the lake. Her body floating unnaturally, hair drifting around her like she was submerged. Her head snapped upward. She saw me. Her jaw dropped open wider than any humans could. Water poured out, gallons, black and thick. Her arms reached toward me, rising higher, higher, stretching in ways bones shouldn't. I stumbled back. She whispered my name so clearly it felt like she was inside my skull. Every light in the house behind us shattered at once. The dock groaned. A wave surged toward shore without wind. Daniel yelled, "Get inside." We ran, slamming the door behind us. Something hit the house, hard. Then again. Then again. Boards cracked. Nails groaned. The house shook with each impact. "She's trying to break in," I whispered. Daniel nodded. "She's not just a ghost. She's drowning us from the inside out." The air grew denser. The smell of rotting water filled the room again. My ears filled with a soft hum, like being deep underwater. And then, through the walls, through the floor, through the air itself, she whispered, "You can't run from the lake." I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Because every time I closed my eyes, I felt cold, wet fingers curl around my ankle. And I knew the night wasn't over. The next part would be worse. Much worse. The third night was the one that broke something inside me. The one where I stopped trying to convince myself this was just a haunting and started understanding that whatever lived in Lake Lanier was not a spirit, not a ghost, not a memory of a drowned woman, but something older, hungrier, and deeply aware of who it chose. It began at sunset, when the lake turned a strange, metallic color, not blue, not black, but a dull silver that didn't reflect the sky. Daniel and I sat inside with every light on, every door locked, every window nailed shut. But the lake didn't care about barriers. You can't trap water. And you can't keep out something that moves through it. Around 8 p.m., my phone buzzed. A video notification. No sender. No number. Just one file, open_me.mp4. Against every instinct, I tapped it. The video was grainy. Distorted. Recorded from something low, almost underwater. After a few seconds, the image sharpened just enough for me to understand what I was looking at, myself. Standing on the dock earlier that afternoon. Except the angle wasn't from the house or the shore. It was filmed from beneath the surface. From the water. Something submerged had been watching me. The video zoomed in, too smoothly to be human, closing in on my legs, my arms, my face. Then, a pale hand appeared in the frame. Thin, translucent skin, long fingers bent at impossible angles. The hand reached toward me, almost touching my ankle. I didn't feel it then. But she had been inches from me. Watching me. Claiming me long before I heard her voice. Daniel snatched the phone from my hand and threw it across the room. "She's marking you," he said again. "And once she marks someone, she shows them what she wants them to see." My chest tightened. What does she want? Daniel stared at the floor. Someone to take her place. At midnight the temperature dropped again, 20 degrees in seconds. The windows frosted over from the inside. The house filled with the sound of rushing water, like standing beneath a waterfall. But the pipes were dry. The sinks were off. The noise wasn't plumbing. It was inside the walls. Moving. Circling us. The lights flickered, then stayed dim, glowing weakly like dying candles. That was when the knocking started. First on the back door of the kitchen. Slow. Soft. Then louder. Then on the front door. Then on the windows. Not random knocking, but a pattern. 3 slow knocks. Pause. 3 fast ones. Pause. Then a long, dragging scrape. Like fingernails on wet wood. Every wall vibrated. My ears began to ring. And then her voice slid through the house, fluid, gurgling, too close. "Let me in," Daniel grabbed my arm. "Don't answer." But the voice got stronger. "You saw me, you heard me, now open the door." Something slammed into the house hard enough to rattle dishes off the shelves. Water leaked from the ceiling again, cold, filthy water dripping onto our heads, soaking into the floorboards. I wiped my face and realized the droplets weren't just water. They were mixed with hair. Long strands of black hair. Her hair. I stumbled back, trembling. "Why is she doing this?" Daniel's voice cracked. "Because this lake isn't a lake. It's a grave. And she's what's left of what was buried." Before I could ask him what that meant, the power went out completely. Darkness swallowed the room. Total, suffocating black. The lake sounds intensified, the rushing water, the knocking, the dragging footsteps across the porch. I felt something cold brush my ankle. Then it wrapped around my leg. A hand. Wet. Strong. Pulling. I screamed and grabbed the table, sliding across the floor. Daniel rushed toward me, shouting my name. But whatever was grabbing me pulled harder, dragging my body across the floor toward the back door. I clawed at the floor, but my nails scraped uselessly. The door creaked open by itself. A blast of freezing wind hit my face. Outside, the lake roared, waves crashing though no storm raged. And she stood there. The drowning woman. Her body contorted, dripping, eyes dark voids. Her arms extended unnaturally, elbow joints bending backward, fingers reaching for my throat. Daniel tackled me, pulling with all his strength. The hand around my ankle tightened until I felt bones shift. Pain exploded through my leg. Then, suddenly, the grip released. I scrambled back, gasping, shaking uncontrollably. The door slammed shut. Daniel locked it with trembling hands. "She's getting desperate," he whispered. "She's losing patience." I pressed my back against the wall, trying to slow my breathing. But the wall was wet. Soaked. I turned, and nearly screamed. Imprints were appearing in the wooden surface. Human-shaped imprints. Hands. Fingers. A face pushing through as if someone were pressing their head from the other side of the wall. Then the face opened its mouth and screamed. No sound came out, but I felt it vibrate through my bones. The wood cracked. Water burst from the cracks in torrents, flooding the floor. We waded backward as the water rose to our knees. Then to our waists. It was freezing. Thick. Muddy. Full of broken twigs, clumps of algae, and something that felt unmistakably like teeth. The house groaned under the pressure. Daniel shouted, "We have to get to higher ground." But as we reached the stairs, the lights flickered back on, just for a second. Enough for me to see a reflection in the water at my feet. Not mine. Hers. Her face staring up from beneath the surface, smiling, her black eyes widening as if she were trying to break through the water into our world. I blinked and the lights died again. And I heard her whisper right next to my ear, right beside my face, though no one was there. "If you run, I'll follow." The water suddenly dropped. All of it. Gone in seconds. Leaving the house soaked but empty. The silence was worse than the noise. Daniel slowly sank to the floor, burying his face in his hands. "She's not haunting the house," he said. "She's haunting you." I didn't say it aloud, but I felt it, deep in my bones, in the cold that wouldn't leave my skin, in the phantom grip still lingering on my ankle. She wasn't going to stop. Not until she pulled me under. Not until I drowned like she did. And something told me the fourth night would be the last one. One way or another. The final night began long before the sun went down. Even during daylight, the lake felt wrong, like the surface was breathing, rising and falling in slow, unnatural pulses, as if something massive lurked beneath it, waiting. Daniel tried to act calm, but his hands shook when he poured coffee, and he wouldn't open any blinds. By late afternoon, clouds rolled in without warning, thick, black, swirling clouds that looked like smoke rising from underwater. The air grew heavy. The wind stopped. Birds vanished. No sound remained except a low, distant rumble that wasn't thunder. I knew she was coming. Worse, I felt she was already here. Every hour, the cold in my chest deepened, spreading like ice through my ribs. Every breath tasted like lake water. My vision blurred at the edges, darkening in slow pulses that matched the heartbeat of the lake outside. At exactly 7:13 p.m., the power shut off again. But this time, the lights didn't flicker, they died instantly, like someone severed the house's connection to the world. Daniel grabbed a flashlight, but it barely glowed, the beam weak and sickly, as if the darkness itself was swallowing it. "She's draining the energy," he whispered. "She's preparing for something." I didn't answer, because I already knew. She wasn't trying to scare me anymore. She was coming to take me. At 8 p.m., the entire house sighed, yes, sighed, as if exhaling a long breath. Then the floors began to vibrate, not from footsteps, but from something vast moving beneath the house, under the earth, under the waterlogged foundation. Daniel grabbed my arm tightly. "Don't listen to her. Don't look at her. Don't speak to her." Before I could respond, we heard it. A soft knock. A single tap on the front door. Tap. Light, gentle, almost polite. Daniel tensed. "Don't move." I didn't. But the knock came again. Loud this time. Then louder. Then a deep, shaking boom that rattled every window, every nail, every bone in my body. Daniel yelled, "Stay away from the door." But the door creaked, slowly, opening by itself. The smell hit us instantly, rotting lake water and decay so strong it made my stomach twist. The air turned ice cold, and the darkness outside the doorway seemed alive, swirling, rippling like black water suspended in midair. Then she stepped inside. Or floated. Or emerged. I still don't know the right word, because her movements weren't human. She glided through the doorway, her soaked dress dragging behind her like seaweed. Her arms hung limp, joints bending wrong, fingers long and dripping. Her head tilted as if her neck were broken, and water streamed steadily from her eyes like tears. But her smile, that broken, stretched smile, was the worst part. She stared at me. Only me. Daniel yelled, "Don't look at her," but I couldn't help it. My body moved on its own. My eyes locked onto hers, pulled by something ancient and suffocating. She raised one hand, and every drop of water dripping from her fingers froze midair, suspended, before rushing toward me in a violent burst. I hit the floor gasping as cold spread across my skin. She whispered, "You're mine." Daniel grabbed me, pulling me backward across the floor. "Run," he shouted. But running wasn't possible anymore. The house groaned violently as water burst through the walls again, swirling around our legs, dragging us toward the open door. The drowning woman's eyes glowed faintly in the dark as she whispered, "Come to the lake." The water rose fast, too fast. Up to our knees. Then our waists. Then our chests. It was pulling us toward the doorway like a current. Daniel held onto a support beam, gripping me with his other hand. "Don't let go," he screamed. But the cold in my chest deepened. My head felt heavy. My lungs burned. I heard her voice inside my mind now, not my ears. "You felt me, you heard me, you belong here." My hands slipped. The current dragged me across the floor, through the doorway, out onto the porch. Daniel tried to chase me, but a wave slammed the door shut. Behind me, trapping him inside. The porch cracked beneath me. Water surged over my body, dragging me toward the dock. The lake ahead churned violently, bubbling like something massive was rising from its depths. And she floated before me, half submerged, hair drifting around her like living strands. She extended her arms. "Come home." The lake swallowed my legs. Ice cold. Crushing. Pulling. I fought, but the current yanked harder, dragging me deeper, deeper, until only my head was above water. Then her hands wrapped around my ankles. I screamed, kicking, clawing at the surface. I felt myself being pulled into darkness, the world above slipping away. My lungs burned. My vision flickered. The last thing I saw above the surface was the moon trembling on the waves like an eye closing. Then, something grabbed my wrist. Daniel. He had broken through a window and dived into the lake after me, screaming my name. His grip was strong, desperate, but the drowning woman pulled harder. My body stretched between the two forces, my bones feeling like they would snap. Water filled my nose, my mouth. I couldn't breathe. The last bit of air burst from my lungs as she dragged me deeper into the black. Then, something changed. The lake roared violently, as if another force surged beneath the water. the drowning woman's fingers loosened. A shockwave rippled through the water, a deep, ancient rumble. Her face twisted in confusion. Daniel yanked me upward with everything he had. We broke the surface. I vomited water, choking and gasping as he dragged me to shore. Behind us, the lake thrashed like a living creature, waves exploding upward. The drowning woman rose above the water, screaming, rage, despair, fury, before sinking below the surface in a violent whirlpool. Then silence. Total, unnatural silence. Daniel collapsed beside me, sobbing and shaking. I stared at the lake, unable to speak. The water was calm again. Peaceful. Too peaceful. As if nothing had happened. As if she'd never been there at all. We left that night. Didn't pack. Didn't speak. We just drove until the lake was miles behind us. But here's the part one still can't explain. The next morning, at a gas station in southern Georgia, I went to wash my face in the bathroom. When I looked into the mirror, there were bruises around my ankles, finger-shaped bruises. And when I leaned closer, I saw something else. A strand of long, black, wet hair stuck to the inside of my collar. I pulled it off with shaking fingers. It was cold. Ice cold. And when I closed my fist around it, it dissolved into a drop of lake water. That night, in a cheap motel miles from Lake Lanier, I heard her voice again. Soft. Gentle. Calling my name. You left too soon, I barely slept. Now, weeks later, I still wake at 3:17 a.m. every night. Always at the same minute. Always with the same sound, a soft splash, as if someone is climbing out of water right beside my bed. And sometimes, I swear I feel a cold hand wrap around my ankle, just for a second, before letting go. As if she's reminding me she's not done. As if she's waiting. And deep down, I know the truth. You don't escape Lake Lanier. Not really. Once she chooses you, she never stops calling.
If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so that you get notifications on your mobile as soon as our new videos are released. This is my new YouTube channel, and I sincerely hope for your support. I make videos for you, so please let me know in the comments what type of videos you enjoy watching, and I will upload more content related to your preferences. Thank you.